Finally, Jerry Jones just plunged. I'm talking about good old days. Oil field plunged. John Hamm, Billy Bob on Landman plunged. Finally, it's been so freaking long since Jerry Jones actually plunged in a draft, went high risk, high reward, plunged in free agency, high risk, high reward. He just plunged for George Pickens. It is highest risk, highest reward. I give Jerry Jones the highest marks for just trying here. Oh, man. But this is desperate. This is deliciously desperate. I'm going to give this trade a thumbs up. I'm Ron Burgundy. I can't quite go up because there's great news and there's bad news. Let's start with the great news. I couldn't draw up, I couldn't create, I couldn't go laboratory and design a receiver who better fills the bill for the Dallas Cowboys, who better plugs the gaping hole opposite CeeDee Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys than George Pickens at barely 24 years of age. George Pickens has proven to be, over 3 years, something that a lot of people didn't think he would be because he went 52nd overall in the draft down near the bottom of the second round. He did so because he ran just an okay 40, 4.47, so not blazing speed. He had issues at Georgia. He got suspended twice at Georgia, once for violating team rules and missed a half, once for getting in a fight with the kid from Georgia Tech and missed the first half of the SEC championship game against LSU. But even though he went 52nd overall, he has proven in 3 years to be the best deep receiver in pro football. That's exactly what we don't have opposite CeeDee, who is he's turned into more of a possession receiver. He can get deep occasionally, but he mostly just beasts. I think he's the best receiver in football, the most productive receiver in football, because he will snatch it and he will run it down your throat. But more on mid-range routes than deep routes. He needs somebody to, the old cliche, take the top off the defense on the opposite side. Somebody that you have to honor and respect on the opposite side who can burn you deep. George Pickens just has a nose for the deep ball and for the end zone, and I love that about him. He's got the best deep ball skills in the league. You know what his skills remind me of? Travis Hunter skills. And I'm not exaggerating, embellishing. I'm not going over the edge, over the top here. George Pickens' skills, his ball skills, his see ball, track ball, snatch ball out of the sky skills, they're Travis Hunter-like skills. They're circus catch skills. You want to talk about catch radius? This kid, man, he's got such mid-air gymnastic athletic ability. He can catch the deep ball, even though he doesn't have classic deep ball run-by-you speed. 50-50 balls, he's going to catch it deep. That's why over his 3 years, of any receiver who went over 2,000 yards over the last 3 years, and George Pickens has 2,841 yards total, he averaged 16.3 a catch for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were having all kinds of quarterback issues. Nobody great to get him the ball deep. 16.1 a catch led the NFL over the last 3 years. And in 2023, his middle year with the Steelers, George Pickens led the league with 18.1 per reception. That's sensational. That's thank you, God. That's the kind of X Factor addition who can turn the Dallas Cowboys immediately into at least a threat to be a playoff team in a division that is loaded with playoff potential, because the Eagles are going to make the playoffs. The Washington Commanders, I just might pick to win the whole thing this year because they're going to make the playoffs and they're going to be even better than they were last year with Jaden Daniels as the greatest rookie quarterback I've ever seen. I don't think he'll have a sophomore slump. I think they're going to be perfectly positioned as they got better in the draft and better in free agency. Obviously, Debo, Tunzel, I could go on and on. So they're two locked playoff teams, and the Giants had a very good draft. I'm not the biggest Jackson Dart guy. Shador would have been my pick. But still, they just keep getting better and better, more and more loaded on defense. They're going to be a dark horse threat to make the playoffs. So this is not going to be easy. But if you give me George Pickens opposite CeeDee Lamb, I got a shot at doing some damage in the NFC Beast, because it is the NFC Beast. It's been leased some years, and we've stolen it or cakewalk to it, but not. Oof. We now have a chance to make the playoffs in the NFC Beast. Now for the bad news. The great Mike Tomlin, I've said many times, one coach I'd like to play for in the NFL. If I could play in the NFL, I'd want to play for Mike Tomlin. He just said enough of George Pickens. Mike Tomlin said that. That should scare the holy hell out of you, Cowboy Nation. Mike Tomlin said, I've seen enough, heard enough, fought through enough with George Pickens. What was his quote of a month or so ago? Obviously, there's far more room for growth, is what he said of George Pickens. And he finally said, yeah, but it ain't going to happen here. He's going to have to grow someplace else. He'd been fined 10 times as a Pittsburgh Steeler. He got into it with Jordan Lewis in the game that the Cowboys won last year because Justin Fields was terrible on that Sunday night at Pittsburgh. Justin Fields can really run with the ball, but he's just not accurate enough. He's a battler, he's a baller, but he's just not accurate enough to be a winning franchise quarterback to me. I think the Jets blew it again. But the point was, in that game, George Pickens, I'm just going to tell you exactly who and what he is. He is a thin-skinned, hot-headed diva of a receiver. Almost every receiver I've ever dealt with in my many years knowing the National Football League has at least some diva, if not a whole lot of diva in him. They just do. It's the all-time diva position in the history of sports, even more so than any NBA position. But this kid is a problem waiting to happen. And he happened at Georgia, where he also tore his ACL, and at Pittsburgh, where he also had all kinds of little knick-knack injury issues, hamstrings to start with. All I can tell you is that I take Mike Tomlin to my bank, and he said no. That they're trying to sell Aaron Rodgers on playing one more year for the Steelers. And instead of George Pickens, they went and got Robert Woods for a grand total of $2 million. Wow. That's how much they didn't want to have to deal with George Pickens anymore. $2 million. But obviously, the main move that they made was they went and got DK Metcalf and said, you're our number one receiver. And I tweeted immediately, looks like, I can't remember how I said it, but I said it looks like George Pickens is a goner. I had no idea he was going to be a goner to Dallas. But, so they're going DK and Robert Woods for $2 million, and Calvin Austin, who had a decent year last year, and Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, and Ben Skoranek. Okay, they just said, enough of that guy. Way more trouble than he's worth. There's some TO happening there, some team obliterator. And that was validated by the fact that a very good former player for my Dallas Cowboys, the one player I respected the most on my defense, Jordan Lewis, who got the most slot corner money ever paid on the free agent market to become a Jacksonville Jaguar. He just tweeted at the news from Adam Schefter that it looked like George Pickens was going to be a Dallas Cowboy. Jordan Lewis, a baller, a battler, a player, he tweeted, confirmation, God wanted me in Jacksonville. That's how much Jordan Lewis is expressing publicly that he's so thankful he's not now a teammate of George Pickens, because they got into it at Pittsburgh. George Pickens is always getting into it with somebody. Remember the Hail Mary pass, the explosion after that? I don't know. Thin-skinned, hot-headed diva. Jordan Lewis said, thank you, God, I'm no longer having to deal with that as a teammate in Dallas. Mike Tomlin, Jordan Lewis. Just remember, Cowboy Nation, that's what we're dealing with. High risk, but high reward. The price was right. You can't argue with this. Jerry had to give a 3 and a 5, a third and a fifth round pick to Pittsburgh, and got back a 6th rounder and obviously Pickens. A 3 and a 5 for that kind of productivity. If you just look at the stats, period, end of story. Just look at the numbers. That's a steal. I'm sure Pittsburgh wanted back a 2 because they spent a 2 to get him in the first place. And his productivity, man, if you told me that somebody had given a 1st for George Pickens, I wouldn't hate it until I started thinking about all the downside. Will he stay healthy? Will he stay mentally healthy? Will he become an issue, a problem in the final year of his rookie contract, making only $3.6 million a year? Will he become an issue? Sure he will. You know it and I know it. The first game he has 1 catch for 4 yards, he's going to be a problem. He's going to go tweet about it. He's going to make internal and external waves about it because that's who he has always been. But you want to talk about talent? This kid came out of Hoover, Alabama, out of the Birmingham area. He's a top recruit. As a true freshman at Georgia, he started. That's all you need to know. The ultimate NFL pipeline, Georgia, the Bulldogs, he stepped right in the first year. He's not put together. He's long and lean. He's 6'3", 200. And I know one of the big knocks on him coming out of the draft is he's just kind of skinny and lanky and not physical. But it hasn't mattered as a Pittsburgh Steeler on the football field, because when the ball goes up, see ball, his ball. I'll go get this. I'll figure out how to circus catch it. I'll left hand, one-hand it. I'll 360 in the air. I'll make the catch. I'll come down with the football. That's what Jerry just plunged to acquire. Now, do we have a tough, strong locker room of leaders? We don't. So he's going to have room to roam as a thin-skinned, hot-headed diva in that locker room. I mean, CeeDee's pretty much his own man. I don't think he's going to show him the right. I don't think you can show George Pickens the rope after 3 years in Pittsburgh. His agent is Micah's agent. So that means, I guess, Jerry doesn't know his agent, because Jerry said at the league meetings, I don't even know who Micah's agent is, even though his agent is very well known, highly respected, Mugoleta. I don't think that'll matter. The Cowboys are digging in, saying we are not going to immediately give him a long-term deal. He's going to have to play it out and show us. Love that. Perfect, Jerry. Now you've got him on that final year in a contract year to show you, to rise and shine and show you. I think I just talked myself into it. I'm going to close my eyes and love Jerry plunging. I think it works. I think it puts us back on the NFC East map. I think we at least now have a chance that I did not think we have. I still don't love our running back situation. I still don't think our offensive line is going to be great or even very good. You know how I feel about Dak Prescott. He's 2-5 in the postseason, so there's no Super Bowl, here we come. But do we now have a chance to be kind of a dark horse playoff team coming out of the East? Do we have a chance to make life miserable for Philadelphia and Washington, and especially for New York, who we've owned for years? Yes, we do. Thanks to George Pickens, thanks to Jerry and Stephen Jones, oil field plunging, landman plunging. I'm going to give it thumbs up. Way to go, Jerry. Proud of you.